All right, this one's about the Supreme Court weighs in on if Donald Trump is eligible to be on the ballot in Colorado. I'm going to break this down so that my peoples could understand what's going on, because I know when you watch all these major networks, they make it all confusing. All right, so we're going to start from the beginning. When Donald Trump got in office, the Republicans gave him a hard time. Nobody wanted him in. Lindsey Graham, everybody talked crap about him. You know what I mean? Ted Cruz, everybody. These are names you might not know, but just follow me and just know that these are characters, whether you want to call them fictitious or not. Now, matter of fact, hold on, man. Let me start my intro, man. You know what I mean? All right. All right, you know what it is. Unique Mecca Audio, man. I'm going to break down this whole thing about what's going on with the Supreme Court weighing in on Donald Trump. Is he eligible to be on the ballot, in Colorado? Now, that's a big one, right? So sit back and listen. Like I said at the beginning, when Donald Trump ran, nobody wanted, to be on his side because he was the outspoken one. He was the black sheep coming from the business world into the political world, and they didn't want him in. Now, once Donald Trump came in, at that time, they had so many vacancies on the federal court benches, and the Supreme Court, had a couple of, things that happened, and people had to leave the bench, from death, illness, or whatever. Don't forget to like and subscribe, man. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. But anyway, so the president had to appoint people to the bench, and the Senate is the one that does the vetting, and they bring it to the president. So what they did to get along with Donald Trump is Mitch McConnell, who was the House representative at the time, the leader of the House, and Lindsey Graham, what they did is while everybody was busy focusing on impeaching Trump, what was going on with the Russian election, and all this smokescreen that was going on over here, behind the scenes, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell was with Donald Trump, and they was appointing judges that would, be for their agenda. Because when you appoint a Supreme Court judge, they stay up there for a lifetime until they die. So they got another 50, 60, 70 years to live, some of them, so they'll still be up there. And that's the way it is. You can't take them out once they're appointed. But once you appoint somebody to the Supreme Court, like I said, they're there forever. But Donald Trump appointed 3 judges. He appointed 3 judges, Supreme Court judges. And then he appointed more judges to the federal appeals courts, nationwide, than the last 2 presidents put together. Because while everybody was focusing on what was going on over here, with the impeachment and the Russian election and everything else, Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell was busy appointing judges. They put in 3 Supreme Court judges that right now, they're not supposed to be, but they're allegedly loyal to Trump. Meaning, I think Gorsuch, when he was going, a female came out and said that, he S8'd her, back in the day, and Donald Trump pushed and got him in anyway, so he made it past that hurdle, and then it was another female, and then another dude, but Donald Trump got 3 judges in, bottom line. So now he got these 3 judges in, so now he goes, fast forward, because we riding, fast forward. So now we're having this election. Now that we're having this election, Colorado voted that Donald Trump wasn't eligible because he caused the insurrection on January 6th in Washington, D.C., right? And they have it in the Constitution that if someone causes insurrection, that they're not allowed to run for public office. So Donald Trump is challenging that. Colorado was one of the first states that said he couldn't be on the ballot. So now they take it to the Supreme Court. So now it goes to the Supreme Court. So I'm gonna walk you through it now. The Supreme Court is looking at Trump, that he wasn't charged, with insurrection, because they never charged Donald Trump with insurrection. But Colorado court held him responsible for the insurrection and using that not to pull him on the ballot, but he was never charged with it. So that's the loophole that's up in, the Supreme Court right now. They got to decide if, Donald Trump could run or not, if he falls under that, clause in the Constitution that say if you cause insurrection. So one of Obama appointed judges, Keegan, is the name, asked the question as far as, which was a very good question. Keegan asked, let me pull it up now. Keegan asked, why a single president should be allowed, right? Why a single president, why a single candidate should be allowed, why a single state should be allowed to decide who gets to be the president. That's what she's asking. Why do a single state get to decide who becomes president? Now, I know you're wondering, how is she asking that? Now, the reason why she's asking that and how she's asking that is because Colorado, denied him being on the ballot. The appellate court denied him, and he took it to the Supreme Court. So now when the Supreme Court make a ruling that they trying desperately not to have to rule on this, but they had to because other states picked up and it became what they call a split in the circuit. A split in the circuit is when two or more circuits is against one or more circuits, right? So like I had a split in my circuit. Let me get right, so you understand. Relax. Now, so when I was going, there was a split in the circuit with the CCE kingpin charge that they had to be unanimous and specific as to which 3 drug violations makes up the element for conviction under the 848. Pennsylvania and the Third Circuit, but they both the same. But the Pennsylvania Third Circuit, and then you had Rayful Edmonds that was in the Fourth Circuit. Those 2 circuits said that you had to be unanimous and specific as to which 3 drug violations. My circuit, the Fourth Circuit, in my case, which I was the precedent, said that you did not have to be specific and unanimous. So that made the split in the circuit because we had the third, the fourth, and then we had my circuit over there and the DC circuit. So once they did that, they weighed in and they made a ruling. They said they was wrong in my case, overturned it from 1999, but I still sat in prison all the way till 2020 because they figured I was too big of a fish to let go at that time, with only doing 6 years, because 99 would have been 6 years because I got locked up in 93. So that's what a split in the circuit is. So now it's a split in the circuit because we riding. Now it's a split in the circuit, with Colorado and I think Maine or something like that. And, whatever it is. So now it's a split. So the Supreme Court was forced to have to answer it. So the Supreme Court is answering the split in the circuit. Now, Keegan asked, like I said, why is a single state, why should a single state be allowed to decide who gets to be the president of the entire United States? The reason why she said that is because when the Supreme Court make a ruling, all the other courts have to go with it. So this is a unique situation where Donald Trump is testing the margin, of the Democrats right now, So now they have to argue because while they hear this, if the Supreme Court rule in favor and affirm means agree with, if they affirm the Colorado's ruling that Donald Trump can't run, that means that, he can't run in any other state. And that's what the problem is, that they don't want to have to face, because then it's like they're deciding the election because Donald Trump is the forerunner. So if the Supreme Court weigh in and say that they side with Colorado, that Donald Trump should not be on the ballot, then other circuits is going to quote the Supreme Court said he's not allowed to be on the ballot in Colorado, so he can't be on the ballot in our state, and then that'll be like the Supreme Court deciding the election. So that was Keegan. Keegan was an Obama-appointed lawyer. So this is where this get tricky. Donald Trump came out during the time of, him putting in Kavanaugh's where he's letting it known that he wants to put in Republican judges that have Republican agendas, because if they got Republican agendas and they get in office, then they're going to, rule Republican agendas when they come in front of the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court Chief Justice Roberts, he came out and made a statement which then a Supreme Court Chief Judge have never done before in history, but he had to when Donald Trump put it out there, saying that, each appointed judge is making rulings based on their appointed parties. You follow me? So that's why they wanted Republican judges and so on. But by Keegan asking, Supreme Court Justice Keegan, by them asking in this Donald Trump case to see if he could run on the ballot in Colorado, by them asking why should a single state be allowed to dictate the outcome of the election, Now, that's a deep one. Because like I said, if they rule on it in favor of Colorado, every other state is going to say the Supreme Court said Donald Trump can't run. And they don't want to be the one to decide the election because that's what it'll come up to. So for a Democratic Obama-appointed judge to ask that to show which direction they're leading in, that shows you a lot as far as what is going on. So they saying if you allow a single state to decide whether a candidate, whether candidate A or B can be elected, right? They saying, don't you find that, quite extraordinary, right? That one state should not be allowed to dictate who becomes president, because that's what this ruling will do. I'm trying to say it as simplified as possible so that you understand it. Now, let me scroll back up to my little joints and get this right. So then they have another issue that's going up to the Supreme Court that's going to be heard on Tuesday about Donald Trump. The D.C. Circuit Court, they said that Donald Trump is not immune, from prosecution. Where Donald Trump is saying that a president is immune from prosecution. So that's like a far-fetched, because they're saying that a president could kill somebody and you can't charge them. That's what the Supreme Court have to hear now, because Donald Trump took it from the district, from the appellate court in the District of Columbia into the federal court to the Supreme Court. So they have to decide that now. That's a tough decision. Now, could you imagine the president having immunity? That means he could just kill his vice president and they can't charge him. That's big. I mean, really, that's how, raw that is, But, it's in the Constitution. So the Supreme Court have to clarify what it means in the Constitution. That's all the Supreme Court do. They just clarify the law. They don't decide cases. They clarify what the law is, and then they send it down to the appellate court. Then the appellate court send it to the district court, and then the district court, they, give it to, the United States attorney and let them know that these are the laws based on the clarification of the Supreme Court. So don't think that the Supreme Court decide cases. They just clarify the law, what the law is. So if there's a split in the circuit, if there's a confusion with an issue, a misunderstanding, like how if a child wants to go out and play, but he broke the lamp, and he goes to his mother and say, Mommy, I want to go out and play. And she say no. And they go to Daddy and say, Daddy, can I go out and play? And he says yes. Then now they'll have to get a mediator to come in and decide if he go. And that's what the Supreme Court is. And all the Supreme Court do is decide if he should go outside and play or not. Not if he broke the lamp. That's for Mommy and Daddy to decide. Okay. So that's where we at. Y'all understanding me? Am I saying this clear enough? This is for everybody. Share this video, man, so y'all understand how this go. The current Justice Department, right? Department of Justice, Merrick Garland. He's an intricate play in here. And y'all decide and put in the comments if you think he messed up or not based on what I'm getting ready to share with you. Merrick Garland was nominated to be, on the Supreme Court by Obama. But that's because I think it was Ginsburg died, like 2 months before, the election, and Lindsey Graham and, and Mitch McConnell said, no, you can't, appoint a judge because you're getting ready to go out and it's not enough time. So he got caught in limbo and they never made him, the judge. And then when, Donald Trump came in, Donald Trump just kicked him off the list and left him where he was at, And but when, oh my bad, excuse me, when Obama came in, Obama made him Joe Biden made him attorney general. So Joe Biden making him attorney general because Obama tried to make him president, so he tried to give him something else because he's supposed to be really good with the law and fair, and you know wears the blindfold of justice. So Biden makes him attorney general, and he's put out a special counsel to investigate Donald Trump and the January 6th, and they came back from his investigation and said that Donald Trump should be charged with insurrection. Right? That's what the Justice Department ruling was. But now you tell me if he was right or wrong, or what's your opinion on this. Merrick Garland decides that he's not going to charge him. You know what I mean? But some people say that he's not charging him because he didn't want to look like he's being vindictive because, you know, the Republicans didn't put him in and he had issues with Trump from the door. So they think that if he, you know, if he makes a ruling or if he charges Donald Trump, that he's just, you know, get back because he had issues becoming a Supreme Court judge himself, you know. But by him not doing that, that leaves a loophole where even an Obama appointed Democratic, you know, Chief Justice Keegan is asking, you know, was he charged? You know what I mean? Like, why wasn't he charged with insurrection? They're trying to say he can't run because he caused insurrection in January 6th. We're talking about 2 years later, over 2 years later, and they still haven't charged him. But now they're trying to stop him from running for president because they said he caused insurrection, but he was never charged with insurrection. So the Supreme Court have to decide if he could run. The Colorado court, they basically convicted him of insurrection by saying that he can't run on their ballot because he caused insurrection, that he wasn't charged with because Mayor Garland didn't charge him. Do you think Mayor Garland should have charged him, and why? And what's the reason? Give me your opinion on this whole topic right there dealing with Mayor Garland, because that's how this play out. I'm going to do other videos breaking it down. I don't want to make this too lengthy, but I'm going to make it long enough to give y'all enough to put in the comments what else y'all want to know about what's going on with this election coming up. Now, right, so that was that with Mayor Garland. So, you know, should he or shouldn't he not have? The Supreme Court is saying that Colorado should not be allowed to decide the election. I already spoke on that. So they're saying if, you know, if you allow Colorado to win, then they win that situation, then, you know, he won't be able to be qualified in other states because they're going to quote what the Supreme Court said, you know, and that's what we're trying to prevent. Or should I say they trying to prevent it? You know what I mean? So now, Justin Keegan has said that. So the thing now is Donald Trump put these justices in office in the Supreme Court. It's 3 justices, 9 people in the Supreme Court. Donald appointed 3 of them, and you only need 5 people to be unanimous over the other 4. So that's 5 and 4. Y'all understand what I'm saying? So it's 9 total, and the majority wins, and Donald Trump appointed 3 of them. And there's, you know, 2 more that's also, you know, what they call conservatives down with the Republican Party, you know, so they have the 5 votes right there to knock it down. But when you see Justice Keegan asking the question, you know what I mean, why wasn't he charged, or was he charged, you know, what's going on with the insurrection, and why should one state, is the main question she's asking, why should one state be allowed to dictate the outcome of the election? Because that's what it basically, because if the Supreme Court ruled on it and let him in, and say that he can't run, then other states is going to say it, and that means the Supreme Court just dictated, you know, the election. But now Donald Trump went through high water and hell to get those 3 judges in, because when it's time to put a judge in, the other party, you know, that's not of the party of the judge that's being nominated is going to look for all kinds of dirt to not put him in or her, because they don't want him or her to go in, because if they go in, they're going to rule for their party's agenda and not their party's agenda. But now Justice Keegan just showed us that some of those justices is really following the Constitution, and they got the blindfolds on, because even though this will hurt the Democratic Party, you know, if they rule in favor of Donald Trump overturning the affirmation of Colorado, you know, then right there, they decide the election. And for Keegan to get involved and ask that, it's not looking too good for Colorado. Just my opinion, but I'm just saying, So that's where we at, right? So now, ultimately, the Supreme Court is gonna have to answer, the question of federal constitutionality and the eligibility, and in order to settle this issue, because this is a constitutional issue, because this is in the Constitution. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Do y'all understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Well, if you do, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you subscribe, share this video so that everybody could understand what is going on. But this is the same thing that happened with Bush versus Gore. Bush versus Gore back in 2000 with the election with them. They went to the Supreme Court to have the Supreme Court decide the election. And the Supreme Court said back then, what's that, 2000? That's 24 years ago. The Supreme Court said, we don't want to have to decide an election. So they had to make a ruling on if they should count the absentee ballots or whatever they had to make. But they ruled in Bush's favor. Bush won. But the Supreme Court, they made a statement where they said that they're making this ruling once and no one could ever use this ruling again. So that means they're not making a precedent ruling, meaning a new ruling for everyone to go by. They said, no, we're just going to decide this issue verbally. That's it. One time, and nobody else can use it. We're just talking about this issue. But now, the way they accepted this brief in the Supreme Court that Colorado brought, now the Supreme Court is going to have to make a ruling that's going to affect America for the next at least 50 years, as long as those judges are all still living, and we move forward. So that's where that's at. So y'all fully understand what I'm saying. I want y'all to understand the words that are coming out of my mouth. Now, so that's where we at. What do you think should happen? Do y'all understand what I said? Did I make myself clear enough? I don't want to be redundant. But like I said, in the Bush versus Gore case, the Supreme Court said we're going to make this ruling once and no one could ever use this ruling again. But the new issue that they just brought to the Supreme Court on is Donald Trump eligible to run in Colorado, the Supreme Court is going to make a ruling that can be used again. So now if they say that Donald Trump could run, if they say that Donald Trump could run in Colorado, even after he caused alleged insurrection, then what happens from there? When another president come in and they cause alleged, insurrection. Can they run? Based on the Supreme Court ruling, if they rule in favor of Donald Trump, they can. And he put 3 of the judges up there, so they're supposed to be loyal to him, is the way he said it himself when he ran. You know what I mean? Just so you understand. So that's something that y'all have to decide what's going on and, pay attention. And I'm not picking sides in this issue. I'm just making an assessment, giving y'all the information on this issue. All right, so sit back. I hope you enjoy the ride. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed, man. And the Cash App is on the screen. Make sure my name do not have a 1 in the last name. It's Hall, not HA1L. None of that. All right, let's go.
Cheers, cheers, toast the crime, toast the crime, the crime, the crime, the crime. What?
Fresh out the can of 26, yeah. He back on the strip, getting back in the mix. Yeah. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Real. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. The Instagram page and the YouTube, you could go and visit. Yeah. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Real. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca audio. Get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the Dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a raw in Uptown. They be horn Uptown, Dominican bust downs. Now we on the positive, we got a lot to give. Now he trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend a ear. He started in Uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community yours. So we can give back to the youth them. Cause they the truth them. And bless up to all the road men.